Thank you, Secretary. In the eyes of the family, many times a child does not grow up. We continue to see them as children only. That's the case for me with Adu. While I do know that he is truly accomplished on a global platform, I realize the enormity of his accomplishment. Adu, you've done great at a very young age. Adhitya Mouli Vidya Shankar works for Amazon as the head of product for Alexa International. Adit currently serves as site leader for Alexa organization in US and manages a global team of 150 employees across 15 countries. His organization comprises of product development, program management, operations and engineering functions in 15 countries with a goal to ensure a high bar on linguistic, contextual, and cultural experience for international Alexa customers across 15 languages and 7 language variants. Adit has been with Amazon since 2013, where he has invented and built many customer-facing and internal products while managing large-scale cross-organizational programs, return, reverse logistics, and payment risk organizations. Can I request everyone to mute, please? Prior to Amazon,
can you switch on your camera, please? I think you are not visible. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, I'll repeat.
Yeah.
Adit has been with Amazon since 2013, where he has invented and built many customer-facing and internal products while managing large-scale cross-organizational programs in returns, reverse logistics, and payment risk organization. Prior to Amazon, Adit worked for Dell at Austin, Texas for 6 years, where he started his career as a process engineer and eventually grew into a program and product leader with his last role as a director and chief of staff to the senior vice president of the global business operations organization that served 25,000 employees across 45 countries. Adit graduated with bachelor's in mechanical engineering from Coimbatore Institute of Technology and holds a master's in industrial engineering from Texas A&M. He also has an executive certification on risk and decision sciences from Stanford University and is a certified project management black belt from American Society of Quality. On the personal side, Adit was born and is married to Anita, a wonderful and again a very hardworking person who works for Microsoft. They're blessed with 2 kids, adorable. Yeah. Adit has been very hardworking from a very young age. His present enviable position is out of a sheer hard work. In fact, he has set the bar so high for all the other children in the family, being the first kid of a family, and has led by example. He has been steady with the organizations he worked for, contrary to the current trend where people switch jobs ever so often. Training Alexa in the language of the respective countries, training the accents of the same language, etc., are things we love to hear from him during our conversations. He's a God-fearing and adoring son, husband, and father. A die-hard foodie he is. He loves good food, irrespective of what the cuisine is. Above all, he's a nephew whom Sadhna and I are very, very fond of and have very special memories. Adu, it's a pleasure introducing Adu to my close circle. In fact, anywhere else we go, probably we will have to be introduced as Adit's uncle or Adit's parents. That's his accomplishment on a global platform. I've had the opportunity today to introduce my nephew. Adu, the floor is yours now. Thank you.
Firstly, President, Secretary, and all Rotarians, thank you so much for having me come in here. I mean, very excited to be kind of sharing a little bit of glimpse of the world that I live and breathe every day. And I mean, it just becomes very special when your own mama introduces you to a crowd that I've grown to like respect and adore right from my childhood days. So, Mama, thank you so much for the introduction. So with no further ado, I mean, just as a ground check, I mean, are you able to see my screen and are you able to hear my voice okay?
Yeah.
Excellent. Cool. With no further ado, I'll just get started. And so what I hope to get out of in the next 20 minutes is to educate pretty much this entire group a little bit more about the world of voice assistants than you know, hopefully than you know right now. So I will go into a little bit of about what these voice assistants are, like what do they do, what are they capable? I mean, talk about technology. This is no way a technical presentation, so I'll keep that part brief and then go into some of the very interesting stats and trends and on views and competition, you know, that's in place. I'll also talk a bit about the future. I mean, where are things heading? And last but not the least, I'll end with a few real life examples where I think this particular community of Rotarians can immensely benefit and see if there is any further room to take this into a better ideation within your own place. So to start with, what is a voice assistant? I mean, this is a technical definition, what you see on the slide. I mean, it's a digital service, natural language processing, speech synthesis, recognition. I mean, there is a lot of buzzwords here. But in essence, I mean, if I have to keep it in simple terms, it's pretty much a hands-free operation of a device. I mean, it is a software. I mean, that's how I would encourage you to think about it. It's simply a software that has this technology that can process speech to return relevant information by looking and listening for specific keywords. This software is also known to kind of filter out all the ambient noise of the cookers and the traffic and whatever you kind of hear about. And you can pretty much plug this software into anything. I mean, and the most common form is a speaker, smart speaker, and that's Alexa. But phones are a very second option. Like that is also increasingly used. But they can be used even on like wall clocks, microwaves, fridges, vacuum cleaners. I mean, you pretty much plug the software into anything. Trust me, I'm not joking. I've seen a live operated microwave in action, and a lot of other fancy devices too in our labs. These assistants go by many names. I mean, they call them virtual assistants, chatbots, AI assistants, but in essence, it's all the same that uses technology. As I said, I'm not going to go into the depth of technology. I mean, that is not what the intent of this meeting is, but I will try and walk you through a little bit of the workflow so that you kind of know what happens in the back end when somebody says voice assistant. So basically you start with, I mean, there is a voice, right? And these are called as wake words. Wake word meaning wake up the device, right? And that's the common use. So when you say wake word here, for example, okay, Google, or hey, Alexa, it just turns on. And it goes into listening mode. And what it does, it takes whatever you say, and it's basically an analog signal, whatever you speak. It processes that into form that is digestible by a computer, and it all goes to. Here is where all the magic happens. I mean, there is machine learning technology, speech synthesis, there is natural language understanding, there is text. I mean, a lot of technology sits in the cloud, and that's kind of where it basically processes all of it and then pushes it back into the device itself in a form that you can kind of hear. And when you want to hear Amitabh Bachchan's voice kind of saying it out to you, or even normal Alexa's voice, or Samuel Jackson if you're in the US, this is the avatar that kind of speaks out back to you. So, I mean, to give you an example as to why this is complex, I mean, I just asked Alexa, what's playing in Brookfield Cinema this weekend? So what happens is it pretty much takes whatever language you talk to take that signal, goes into the server, scores the catalog of data across the internet on where this information is available, and pushes it back to you. And all of it happens in a flip of a second. I mean, you're talking milliseconds. All of this is happening, and that's why it's magical. I mean, for you to kind of hear anything you want. I mean, for example, turn on a light. 5 minutes for a few seconds for you to walk, turn the switch on. But it doesn't take that long if you're kind of using a voice service. That's kind of where these assistants come into play. So this is how technical I'm going to go. And let me get into the fun aspects of it, right? A little bit of history and a little bit of what's happening and how people use it. So what you see here are a bunch of speakers. I mean, speakers are the most common form of us visualizing this software, right? And what you see here is all Amazon Alexa devices. They are called the Echo line of products. And a couple of them you see a screen. They're like screen with visuals where you can see what's happening. The others are just voice only. But what I want to kind of share with you here is, I mean, Alexa was invented and designed in Amazon Lab 126. It's in our Sunnyvale office in California. But the name Alexa came about for two reasons. First, X sound, the most least confusing sound for a device. And so for anyone to kind of accidentally activate a device, it's going to be very difficult. So which is why it has the word X in the name. And the second is Amazon is engineering is a bunch of Star Trek fanatics. So if you're ever familiar with Star Trek, there is this thing called Library of Alexandria, which is the one-time keeper of all knowledge, right? And so the engineers kind of had a big influence in kind of naming this as Alexa. So that's how the name came about in the first place. But to kind of give you some history, Alexa is not the first one. I mean, in fact, the first voice assistant was developed like exactly a century ago, like in 1922. It was this dog-like device it was called Radio Rex. Again, note the consonant X here, where a toy dog, it's a toy dog. I mean, you just say the word Rex, it'll jump out of the house. So that was the invention. It was 1922. That was the first voice-activated action done by a device. And then fast forward a few decades, then Shoebox, IBM, developed a device called Shoebox. Again, note the consonant X here too as a wake word. The Shoebox was nothing but think of it as a calculator. It can understand like 16 characters, a few numbers, plus a few commands like plus, minus. And so in essence, it was a simple calculator. And then fast forward a couple more decades, I think the technology of speech recognition led to amazing progress in research. And so in 1990, there was a device that came in. It was called a Dragon Dictate. And it's basically a dictator. Like after every word you pronounce, you pause, it'll make sure that the screen has that word kind of captured. And it was $9,000 back in 1990. Just for a dictator, right? And so, of course, it was ridiculous. Nobody was going to buy. And so, fast forward a few a couple more decades in, that's the mix coming in. Siri, I think everybody must be familiar. I mean, it's Apple's iOS. They kept with Apple is available, and it pulled everybody to a single ecosystem. So Siri was the first one to come in, and it was back in 2011. And then Google, they're natural in the world of search. So it was only natural for them to come up with a voice assistant to start doing this. And so Google now took its birth in 2012 from taking inspiration from Siri. And then, like once these big players start coming in, everybody starts coming in. And Cortana came in 2014, followed by Alexa. So Alexa was actually much later into the game. But I mean, it was when I joined the company in 2013, I knew it was in the works. I mean, you've all heard about the secret project in the company where they were kind of working on Alexa, but it came into life in November 14. But the moment Alexa came in, I mean, it just changed the world because it came in with so much. I mean, by the way, I'm nowhere trying to overspeak on Alexa or oversell Alexa. I mean, it's just only natural. But I mean, it just came in with a much more prominent play in the world of voice. So that's when everybody started upping their game. Google reinvented and sent a new version of what they call, rebranded it from Google now to Google Assistant. They launched in 2016. And then Apple, same way, they kind of did something called the HomePod and plugged in Siri into the HomePod and kind of launched it too. So the last 5 years, though, you've seen like a drastic or dramatic growth in the world of voice assistants. And we've come a long way. And when I say we've come a long way, it's because, and this is just Alexa, but I mean, Google is very similar. I mean, you can speak and understand 8 languages, right? When you're talking English, French, German, Hindi, Italian, Portuguese, Spanish, Japanese, right? And so But the beauty is it can understand language variants. For example, the English in Australia is different from the English in India, which is different from English in UK. And even the same with French and Spanish. French in Paris is different, and French is the second language in Canada. And so the accents are very different. Same with Spanish. I mean, Mexico, US, and Spain, and all of them speak different dialects of Spanish. So it can understand language variants too. But that is not where it stopped. I think where the evolution came about is it's multilingual. I mean, it is definitely bilingual now, and we're heading towards the multilingual world very soon. But it can speak two languages, and I mean, and the reason for this revolution is, I mean, there is about 75% of the households are speak multiple languages. I mean, especially in the US. I mean, speaking English and Spanish is a very common thing. Even in India, I mean, English and Hindi. I mean, of course, Hindi and many other languages, but English being the official language, Hindi is the other language. And when I say bilingual, I mean, if for example, if you're a person, you talk to Alexa in English, it will return a response back to you in English. If you do the same thing in Hindi, it will the response will be back in Hindi. So yeah, briefly, I mean, I know this is a pretty heavy data-driven chart, but I think what I want to kind of showcase here is what do people use this for? I mean, that's a very natural question that might come in your mind. Like, what am I going to do with the device? I mean, it can listen and speak, but what does the usage look like? I mean, to be honest, it's the usage has been consistent over the last 3 years. I mean, playing music, I think, is the most common use case, and then asking for weather, setting a timer, an alarm is kind of in the top 5 or 6 thoughts, and it's been the top 5 in the last 3 years. The dark blue bar that you see is someone who has ever tried. The other next blue is somebody who's using it monthly, and the light blue is something that people are using daily. So you can see that the streaming music, I mean, there is at least 40% daily usage in terms of how people have invoked these assistants. And the COVID scene last year has showed some very interesting trends too. I mean, this data is about a year old, but the audio entertainment has upticked about at least 8 to 10%. And people using speakers for like listening to news, the daily morning podcasts or sports information. I mean, this is kind of rising up the board, up to about 10 to 15%. But again, it doesn't stop there. I mean, think of your life. Think of anywhere in your life where you're turning on a light or calling someone or looking at a calendar or looking at a recipe. This pretty much, there is every aspect of your daily life. I mean, there are use cases, and it pretty much has been, I mean, we see use cases across the board. It's just one is more used than the other. To actually give it a personal taste, I mean, in our family, I mean, I use it I have a religious playlist that plays every evening. We have a reminder to eat our daily vitamins, so it automatically shows up. And we have a favorite salsa place. We order salsa and some chips. So every week, there's a timer that goes by. But my kids talk to it all the time. I mean, like if I'm in a meeting and I'm hearing Rowdy Baby or Waka Waka by Shakira play, I know who turned it on. Because you'd be surprised. I mean, Ira Alexa can listen to Ira's words, to her accent at that age, and it can kind of invoke the right thing. They know to turn I don't remember turning on the TV with a remote control in the last 6 months. It's primarily voice. So, I mean, that's kind of where things are evolving. Where do they use it, right? I mean, so you talked about what are the use cases. Now you talk about where. Twice as many US adults have used voice in a car versus a speaker, right? So what you see here is 2 different views. Inside the home, I mean, there's about 22.9% of the usage is from the speaker, but what this is surprising is speaker is not the only form. There is a laptop, there is TV, there is like watches where you can invoke, there are remote controls, headphones. I mean, they're pretty much in every piece of artifact that you can see. And outside, I mean, car, it's a very natural choice where the use is very, I mean, it's almost 2x the amount of speakers. And mobile speakers, I mean, mobile as an endpoint for voice continues to be a very critical endpoint. If I look within the house, like you can ask, okay, what's the dimension looks within the house, right? Bedroom and the living room are top 2. Kitchen is a fairly close contender too in this list. And I mean, the living room is a natural option because you have entertainments, lights, smart home integrations, and all of them come into play. But the recent interesting data shows that like consumers who have a smart device in a bedroom, they're more likely heavy users. A lot of skills. I mean, 25% of them are supposed to be using it more often. Listening to music, podcasts, radio, whatnot. And what you can see here is, I mean, all the third-party apps that come in, and I'll talk about that in a second. But anyone who uses speakers in a bedroom, they're more likely to have higher apps or skills installed in their device too. So this is a market that actually is growing heavily, which goes to my next slide, which is skills, right? I mean, you're all used to the world of apps. I mean, all of us have anywhere between 10 to hundreds of apps on our phone, right? From playing games to going and scrolling at Facebook and whatnot, right? But very similar in the world of voice, they call skill is a proxy for apps. That's the word they use. And it's nothing but same thing. It's a special text that can be used to do whatever you want. And just to give you some examples, sleeping sound is a skill. Meditation is a skill. I mean, or I don't know where my phone is, Alexa, find my phone. You hear your phone beep, right? And that's a skill. Skills have gone up significantly in the last 3 years. In fact, on an average, there are about 10 to 15,000 skills being added every year. Of course, I mean, and if you do the math across the board, you're talking about 100,000 plus skills across all locales. But I think the top non-English skill is in Germany. You have about 10,000 skills, but everything else above that is all English. In fact, people make money out of it. There was this a company called Invoked Apps, I think. They do the same thing, sleeping sound, and very interesting sleeping sounds for like $1 purchase for a month. I mean, so they make in-app revenue coming out of these skills too. So yeah, it's a world that is growing rapidly, and skills are the next gen. Think of it as apps. I mean, anyone can develop a skill. You don't need to be technical enough. All you need is a blueprint. It will teach you how to do it. You can do it. What I want to shed light is some interesting facts here, right? I mean, some of these stats, even though I'm working in this world, are still shocking for me because like 50% of the voice searches by the end of this year is expected to be through voice. I mean, 50% of all searches are expected to be through voice. And about every other household in the US is expected to own a smart speaker next year. I mean, we are very close to that number already. The other very, very interesting fact is, I mean, pretty much there is 95% of the people who have a phone have a smartphone. And almost 31% of the users, this is worldwide data, they use voice search at least once a week. I mean, and 2 years back, this was not, we were nowhere close to like even single digits kind of growing up. And a couple of other data points. I mean, local businesses. I mean, we use it all the time. I mean, hey, you want a burrito? You want to go? My mama said I'm a foodie, so we do tend to search a lot for restaurants. So finding a local business, finding a close salon, spa, whatnot. I mean, that is a very, very common use case too. And here is the other part. Like, I mean, I'm part of the 72% of the people. I mean, I would say, I mean, it's become part of a daily routine. I mean, there are at least 5 to 6 times a day where I personally invoke Alexa to do something. And as I said, Vishruth and I do it probably 20 to 30 times a day. It's become part of our daily life. It's only natural that for them, this is the world that they're going to see in the next 10 years. So voice is a very normal thing for them to go invoke something on. And now we're talking money, like this last bullet, right? People starting to shop. I mean, shopping from the internet was a thing in the past, and now it's like there is no other second way to shop. I mean, that's become the primary way to go shop. Now, think of voice as a medium, very similar to that. I mean, people are going to use technology, and this is where the money starts to trickle in. It's a monetization play. I mean, we aren't there yet, but people have started. I mean, 43% of the people who have a speaker tend to use technology. It can be as simple as saying, hey, Alexa, order my detergent, laundry detergent, or Alexa, order my toilet paper. I mean, so all you do is just say that word. It's already ordered. It's put in your cart. It already has your payment method. It just comes through. You don't have to do anything. You don't have to touch your phone. Don't have to touch your computer. You just invoke and it gets done. It's just making everybody lazy. It's the mean way to say it, but it's the sad truth in the end. Now, I've thrown enough data here, but I'll give you some real stats. Like, now we are talking real numbers here. we are in somewhere in the between the red and the green line. I mean, there are about 4.1 billion assistants today. When I say assistants, it's not just a speaker. It's either an assistant in your phone, assistant in your watch, Fire TV, whatever device you use. I mean, these are all assistants. There is about 4 billion right now. And in a couple of years, it's expected to be 8 billion. Just to put some context to those numbers, that is more than our world population. So that's how many endpoints of voice assistants we expect to see in the next 2 years. This includes both consumer and enterprise, meaning it also includes like corporates. I mean, for example, I might have like 10 of those, right? I mean, from my phone or a couple of devices at home and whatnot. So it includes enterprise access too. So it's still a huge number. That's kind of what I'm trying to say. And just to also give you some context, about 60 smart TVs, right? I mean, they are the fastest growing segments today. I mean, nobody turns our TV on with a remote, as I said. I mean, it's growing about 150% year over year, meaning it's all voice integrated already. All you have to do is change channel, everything. I mean, you just have to speak the word and it does it. Same thing with wearables. I mean, there is, talk about glasses to earphones to, I mean, watches are already there, but I mean, even chains. I mean, like it's coming in everywhere. It's the software. It's invisible. You can pretty much put it in anywhere you want, and it's an endpoint. And you while you're walking, you can say, and it shows up in your glass. I mean, Google developed this with the glass, and think of that linked with this technology. I mean, the world is changing, and this is kind of where things are all moving. Now, I kind of want to share some competition, right? I mean, there is no fun without competition. And what you see here, and this is not this is all published by external entities on what this data means, but the biggest voice impact is by at Amazon, followed by Google Assistant, right? And then everyone else is far below the custom. You're talking 3x lesser. Like, I mean, Amazon at 110, Google at 98, Apple, Siri, and everyone is like 30 and below. How this rating is made is it includes a breadth of views, multiple factors like sentiments, current activity, future plans by the voice industry, also adoption and expressed intent to support this whole ecosystem. So it takes everything into factor and then kind of puts things in perspective. So yeah, Amazon is fairly up there in terms of the impact it has. Not just that, but also it holds a lion's share of the speaker market. This data is fairly old because there are a lot of new players that have started coming in, but as you can see, the blue bar, all the colors of blue is all Amazon products, and the next blue bar is all Google, and then the green one is all the others. I mean, and the others include a lot of people. I mean, for example, I'm a fan of Bose and Sonos. Now, they've all started coming in with their own inbuilt Alexa features or inbuilt Google Assistant features. I prefer any day I'm biased towards a Bose speaker or Sonos speaker in comparison to Amazon speaker. So they are starting to come into the market, and LG, Samsung TVs, they're also kind of integrating. So a lot of players have started to come in, but Amazon still holds a massive lead in terms of the speaker market share. Future, right? And I'll talk about the future, and then I want to show a couple of snippets of real life stories. Of course, I'll open up the floor for any questions right after that. But the future is changing. I mean, it's pretty much in every industry you can think of. I mean, you're talking healthcare where doctors use it for like patient transcripts as they speak. So you come in about the patient, the data already shows when people come in. Entertainment, you're talking hospitality, hotels. I mean, you walk into your home, I mean, it knows what food you like, it knows what you want, it'll order automatically for you. They welcome you the same song that you stopped listening to while you were parking your car. I mean, it's getting really intelligent. Now, entertainment, banking, businesses, automotive, I mean, it pretty much think of any industry, and we are starting to see penetration. I mean, the future growth will come in like complex, and travel is a very complex industry because, I mean, we all have a preference on which flight we want to travel, which leg we want to travel, which class we want to travel, which route we want to travel. So it involves a lot more conversations. And so the complex multi-turn conversations are the future of where these assistants are, I think, will play a huge part. Last but not the least, I would say I want to adopt with education. And education, it's having a huge impact lately. And in India, I'll show you a couple of examples. And the reason I bring this up is, I know you talked about donating 1,000 computers at the beginning of this call, Mr. President, and this is very similar, right? And so on this example, that a person that you see here is called Amul Boyar. He's a teacher, government school teacher in like a remote village in Maharashtra. What the idea that he came up with was placing this device inside a mannequin, right? Because he felt like a living personality, a face. It's always very easy to interact. And what he did was he gave assignments to children to come back with questions on history, geography, and ask Alexa. Like what he did, like it just skyrocketed to the entire district, and there were like about 50 schools using what he did. Amol, Amol was, by the way, flown into like a voice conference where our senior vice president from Google, Amazon, everybody were there. We kind of actually recognized him for like the impact that he's had in the community. But just to give some context, Amol is in a place where there is not even a basic place for sanitation. Those are issues. In fact, the first time he took a plane was when we awarded him to come to the VoiceCon. But that guy was smart enough to use this technology to kind of help students in schools. Another example is this other teacher, Ms. Pooja Shanke. Very similar. She kind of followed the same proxy. But they didn't know each other. But she kind of went through the same approach of placing Alexa in a mannequin, and she used it for like meditation, poems, prayers, like general knowledge. And her goal was to bridge the learning gap. And she has been instrumental. She's partnered with the education government in Maharashtra, and they've helped her kind of do this across 50 plus schools. And the goal there is, how do I take on the visual cues and take it with a more personal learning, right? And so like people like Amol and Pooja have been like phenomenal ambassadors for Alexa. And last but not the least, I want to share one more story, and before I open up for questions, and I have a 2-minute video clip that I'm going to try and play. I'll also put that on the chat window so that if you have issues, you can watch it there. But Abhinash Mishra, like actually is a government district administrator in Maharashtra again. He actually tweeted a video of a girl talking to Alexa, and it was so fascinating. And his point in the tweet was attendance. Because of Alexa, people have started coming to school more regularly, right? And so we reached out to him and said, hey, can you help show us a video and interview of what's happening, what's going on. And so what I'm going to share with you right now is I'll show you a video of this. And by the way, I'm also pasting this in the chat window just so that you can see it. My access to Zoom. I'll paste it here, but I'll also play it here for all of you to watch. It's just a 2-minute video, but I think it puts things in perspective.
राज्य के अंतर्गत बस्तर जिले के अंतर्गत लोहांडीगुड़ा ब्लॉक आता है, जो आदिवासी बेल्ट है, बिल्कुल ट्राइबल बेल्ट है। यहाँ पर काफी पिछड़े लोग रहते हैं, शिक्षकों की इस विकास खंड में काफी कमी है। उस उद्देश्य से स्मार्ट शाला यहाँ स्टार्ट किया गया और इसी कड़ी में हम लोग ने एलेक्सा को जोड़ा। पहले एलेक्सा एक स्कूल से स्टार्ट किया, लेकिन बच्चों का उत्साह काफी बढ़ते गया, तो ऐसा लगा कि एलेक्सा की आवश्यकता है। उस आवश्यकता के कारण बच्चों के उत्साहित होने के कारण हम लोग ने 40 स्कूलों में अभी स्टार्ट कर चुके हैं।
हम लोग टीचर से ना बहुत डरते हैं, थोड़ा हिचकिचाहट होता है, हम सर से तो पूछ नहीं पाते, तो हम एलेक्सा से अपने दोस्त की तरह उसको पूछते हैं। जैसे पूछते हैं व्हाट इज प्रोडक्शन, व्हाट इज रेस्पिरेशन, व्हाट इज इलेक्ट्रिसिटी, जैसे कुछ पूछते हैं वैसे एलेक्सा जवाब देता है। जब हमने डिजिटल रेवोल्यूशन को अपनाया है अपने स्कूल में, तो सडन चेंज, हमने ड्रास्टिक चेंज अपने स्कूल में पाया, जिसकी वजह से हमको बहुत सारे फायदे हुए हैं। हमारे स्कूल का स्ट्रेंथ बढ़ा, स्कूल का एनवायरनमेंट टोटली चेंज हुआ, टीचर्स भी इंटरेस्टेड है बच्चों को पढ़ाने में। तो ये सब चीजें चेंजेस आए हैं, बच्चे रेगुलर आ रहे हैं स्कूल में, ये हमारे लिए बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी था। ये सारी बच्चियां जो है सुदूर अंचलों से, नक्सली क्षेत्रों से हैं। जब से स्मार्ट क्लास चालू किया है तब से ये बच्चियां बिल्कुल निर्भीक हो गई हैं। जो परेशानी वो हमसे साझा नहीं कर पाती थी, जो क्वेश्चन वो हमसे नहीं पूछ पाती थी, आज वो एलेक्सा से पूछती है। वो लोग अपना फ्री वे में इससे पूछ लेते हैं, जो पढ़ना है पढ़ लेते हैं, क्विज खेलना है क्विज खेलते हैं, म्यूजिक सुनते हैं, दे प्रेफर टू डांस विद द म्यूजिक। तो हम लोग को बहुत अच्छा लग रहा है कि बच्चे इस तरह से इस वे में आगे बढ़ रहे हैं। तो फर्स्ट टीचर हम लोग हैं, सेकेंड टीचर हमारी एलेक्सा है।
Yeah, that was just one example of where, I mean, this is making a big impact in this world. But that was kind of I wanted to kind of leave with that. I know Rotary gives a lot back to the community, to our own schools, and there is a lot. And so there are a lot of examples out there where I think this is just not a fancy gadget that anybody can have at home, but it can have the right impact in our own community. I think the rural areas have adapted and absorbed it a lot better than the urban side of the country. So something to think about. And that was all I had for today. I mean, hope it was useful to get a glimpse of what voice assistants do and work and where the world is going in. So I'll stop there and open up for any questions.
Thank you, Aditya.
Hi, Aditya. This is Murli here. Fantastic presentation. I mean, it's always nice to know technology at its cutting edge. Some of us were struggling with something called as Dragon, if you remember. That was basically only converting speech to text, that's all. But then we have to use all the accents that were possible under the sun to make it recognize what it was. And we were among the earliest users of that speech, let's say, software. So I have two questions for you. I don't know whether that comes under CDA, but still I'll try. The first one is in any listening device. So obviously it's a listening device, right? So the wake up is obviously we all believe as public is hey Alexa, or the ones that you showed, hey Bixby, and so on. So something is there to wake it up. But basically it means that it's always under a listening mode, meaning that it just waits for you to wake up. So my question to you is from several angles, from country security perspective, from privacy angle. Does it mean that it's always on a listening mode and it only wakes up when you say, hey Alexa, but otherwise it is it's always listening, meaning that on the other end, technically, if there is something that's written or that can capture, means that you could always be listening. So this is my first question. The second one is from the chart that you showed, I could see that China is completely missing in that list. When I saw US and others and all that, and China was missing. So what's the status there? So these are the two questions.
Tackle the first one first. Privacy, I think privacy is a core tenet for any of this engine. I mean, yes, you're absolutely right. The device keeps listening because it is looking for that wake word. But where companies like Amazon have been very open about it is, you can literally say, hey Alexa, delete everything that I just said. It will absolutely sweep it off right away, right? And so it allows you as a person to have control on the privacy. Second aspect is there is a mute button on top, or there is a camera button that you can actually shut off the camera. You can actually click that and it will never listen to you, and you can make it listen to you only when you want to turn it on, right? So being open to say, hey, you know what, privacy is the first and most important tenet, and we let you control how you want to kind of manage it. I think it's kind of where companies like Amazon have taken it further up the notch in comparison to like Facebook or Google, because Google, like it or not, let's talk about a washing machine. Walk down the hall, you will see an ad on washing machine on Facebook and on Gmail, right? So it is not, Amazon doesn't do that, where privacy is one of the core tenets of how this company works. So hope that answers your question. So basically, it's what you want to control. If you decide you want, in our home, I don't care, because there is nothing that we speak that we feel is, entering into our life and taking our data away. It's just kids screaming and us talking. So it's okay. So I leave it on at all times. But there are people who are sensitive, and in which case you have the option to turn it off. Your second question on China, yes, Amazon is not in China, and I believe Google is not either. And this is very similar to why, if you ever travel to Beijing or any parts of China, Google, any of the Google products won't work. They have their own suite of products. There is a WeChat instead of WhatsApp. There is a Baidu instead of Google. and there is Alibaba, that is the equivalent of e-commerce giant Amazon, right? So they have, I mean, the answer to China goes beyond me. I mean, it's this whole communist view of how they want to kind of build their own market, and that is primarily where, and I mean, and it didn't make sense for Amazon to penetrate. So we haven't even gone that route. And it's not just Amazon. Pretty much any player, any global player. I mean, their entry into China has been fairly limited.
Thanks, Aditya. I'll leave the floor to others and then I'll come back to you if there are no questions.
Aditya, this is Ramachandran. And is there as a radiation hazard, especially when more frequently used, especially at the domestic sectors?
That was an advertisement which was sponsored for this program.
I missed the question. I heard some background noise.
Okay, no, is there a radiation hazard, especially when it is widely used at the domestic levels?
Yeah, by variations, you mean like different voices?
No, the radiation hazard. See, when
radiation hazard. Sorry, I kept hearing variations. No, there is nothing at all. I mean, it's a software, right? I mean, phones have frequency issues, but softwares don't. The radiations could come in, especially if you're using a earphone. I mean, there, I think you're talking about frequencies kind of hurting. For a normal device, there is absolutely no radiation. It's just an analog signal that goes out, converts to digital, processing happens to the cloud and comes back, just like your Wi-Fi. There is no issue at all on any sort of radiation hazards.
Thank you.
Aditya, Krishna Kumar here.
Go on.
Just want to know, I mean, some of the examples of social outreach projects for which Amazon has been used has been a real eye-opener for many of us. If you could possibly put us on, maybe the president or class to people who work on such projects more, I think Rotary can possibly do much more by making use of the kind of technology that you develop and how creatively it can be used for. I think those two videos are really very good. The second,
you know who you want me to work with, and I'd be more than happy to put in touch with you. We have our own India country team, and I have my team that manages the quality aspects, but I have a country leader who manages the India, or things like the outreach within the community. So if there is any remote interest at all, I'm more than happy to put you in touch with. I mean, his name is Punish. He's based out of Bangalore, and I can certainly put you in touch with him. Not an issue at all.
Yeah, this is a question which has come from some of the husbands of, Rotarians here. They want to know, with so much of technology getting developed, is there a way to make your wife at least half as obedient as Alexa?
I am yet to find it out. I will. I'm sure there is research going on. That's a good question, though. Might be tougher than solving some of the hard machine learning problems.
Yeah.
Aditya, you have to ask this question to Sanu.
She's right there in the call, I believe. So, but I will certainly ask.
Aditya.
Anu is listening in. She has still not heard the active word. Adu, going back again to privacy. See, the product is still under development, right? So the very nature of the product is such that, when people are speaking, in multiple languages, when questions are raised, etc., data is stored, and probably you even mine the data for qualitative improvement of the product to improve the satisfaction rating, right? So when all of this is done, there is so much of data that would be, am I audible?
Yeah.
I can hear you.
Yeah. So much of data will be stored, will be mined, analyzed for the purpose of improving the efficiency of Alexa. So when this is happening, how do you ensure that that data is utilized only for qualitative analysis? That data is not utilized because there's a lot of value there in the data. So how is the company ensuring that that data is not used for other purposes or extraneous purposes or sold? Is there a policy for that?
And to also supplement Shankar's question, see, you said go to a favorite restaurant or it suggests a restaurant. So which means like Google has these paid ads right on top. You would also be generating revenue by sharing this data with prospective restaurants who can therefore throw up right on top the preferences or the choices for the person to make. So isn't that also a scary aspect?
Excellent questions. I'll tackle so right. I mean, there is data, a lot of data, and we live in a world of data. I'm sorry, I'm going to mute someone's phone. So can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So the data, I mean, again, we have to follow compliance, right? I mean, across countries. I mean, for example, Germany's privacy policies are so stringent to the point where I cannot touch any customer data, period, right? Very similar in the US, there are compliance standards that we need to kind of meet out. So how we leverage this data is it's all anonymized, meaning the moment it leaves you, it's encrypted. And all I know is some friction happened somewhere. Like meaning when I say friction, you uttered a word, Alexa didn't respond, or you uttered something and Alexa said something else. So data is used to understand how many times did the device not respond correctly for a question that was asked, and nobody knows who when internally. But we do have the anonymized version of data to see, is the device working properly? Should we improve our features? And you're absolutely right. I mean, I don't think there will be a perfect product, and the perfect product will be a very old product 10 years later. So it's constantly going through the evolution. Same thing with our phones. I mean, a smartphone with, I mean, you have a camera better than like a DSLR right now, right? And so that camera is actually looking and watching a lot of things that you're doing. And the speakers that we have right here are listening to things, even when I'm presenting probably a presentation about Alexa here. So there's a constant leverage of data, but how this data is being used. I mean, Apple has very similar things. Encryption across where they listen, but it's all anonymized. So the data is used to improve, and these are managed by the standards set forth by the government rules. And that's where, I mean, we can't launch a product and use it effectively if we don't abide by those standards. So we do have a large organization that massively looks at every vertical across any of these information security before anything goes on. And to Mani, your question, you're right. I mean, it's both scary and it's actually preferred. I mean, and so which is where I think you have options. I mean, it's this all comes to your personal preference. You can have this device. For example, I would rather prefer the device shows me, hey, Annapurna is open, order a vada sambar. I mean, it'll come to me in 15 minutes. I would prefer that option to show up if I'm there in Coimbatore at 6:30 in the morning, right? Like I don't have to do anything, and I'm happy that Annapurna is going to get a cut of this. I'm happy that my vada sambar is going to show up, right? But some people don't like it, and you can absolutely turn off. And I can literally, it's as simple as saying, Alexa, forget everything, and that's it. The device entirely wipes out any information past, present, and resets it to a factory setting. It's as simple as that. And you can turn off and turn on. You can keep your privacy at any level you want. And that's the flexibility of what you have on a smart speaker versus a social media tool like Facebook or Google search, for example. So that's the difference comes. It's up to you. And if you don't want, you can absolutely stay away. And if you actually prefer ads, and if I'm looking and if I'm shopping around for smartphones, and if I want to see ads to show me comparisons, I would actually like it. So it's just personal preference, and you can toggle choices based on that.
Thank you, Adu.
Thank you so much. Adu, I have just one more quick question. Of late, you see that Alexa is a character in a movie. And there is also a statistic now that says that there are X number of percentage of people who have said, I love you to Alexa. And Alexa, by and large, gives company to a lot of people all over the world. So from the psychological perspective, is there anything that's going into the making of Alexa and its development?
No, I mean, as you beautifully said, we're all learning, right? We're all learning. We're all kind of trying to see how we can improve basically to make your life better, our life better in how we kind of interact. I say, and the one big ask from people was, I don't like Alexa's voice. Can I have? I mean, we made it happen in India, where Alexa can speak like Amitabh Bachchan answer the question. Samuel Jackson's voice here. So celebrity voices was a big deal. Celebrity asking the question. So that's kind of where we constantly listen and see what we can do to improve. And privacy, for example, was a big ask when we initially launched. So we have kind of put a very big gate in terms of privacy. As we kind of move towards the future, I think there is a lot of asks that come around healthcare. I mean, for example, old age, people in the old age, and especially when people are living far apart, and if you want to drop in, I mean, you can ask simple, it can be as simple as, hey, Alexa, can I drop in to check in on my grandma? All it does is device opens up, it will say a hello, you can see her on video, she can chat with you on video. I mean, it becomes as simple, it's called a drop in. I mean, you can actually drop into anyone that you want to kind of check on at any point in time. So we're constantly improving and listening to what people want and trying to kind of, and what people want are all not what they, it's not easy to build, it takes time. And some take years and some take a few weeks. So we're constantly in the process though. So, and I don't think we'll ever reach a nirvana state in having a very finished product. And I think it will go through this evolution over the next 10 to 15 years. Just as we are still going through with smartphones, right? I mean, we had like 10 years back, a smartphone is different from a smartphone right now. So I think it's the next 10 years, we'll see a dramatic shift though, in terms of voice usage.
Okay, I had a question. Bharat Shah here. How do you make sure that a conversation between two people is not taken by Alexa out of context? Like, let's say I'm telling my friend, I want to see TV, and it turns on the TV. You know, how do you manage to create that this is for Alexa and this is for others?
Excellent question. I think this is where the machine learning comes in. Like, I mean, we didn't get it right when all of the machine learning and artificial intelligence in the back. That's where this comes in. I mean, because you can have like a cooker shouting, traffic vehicle kind of beeping, and then you're still trying to say something to Alexa, and it turns on, right? We didn't get it right 3 years back. I mean, having the device getting turned on amidst all of this, even as you said, between conversations was very tough. But I think we have kind of come a long way right now. I mean, for example, if you can train Alexa to know your voice. You can train Alexa to know your wife's voice, and depending on who's asking or who's talking, it can easily pick up. And again, this didn't exist 2 years back. And it can, and let's say you prefer only converse only in Hindi, and if she says only converse to me in English, to pick up your voice and only respond back in your language of choice. So yes, we are getting smarter, but again, it's a learning. I mean, we're all improving it by the day. And this problem was more persistent that you gave an example, was more persistent 2 years back than it is right now. But I think as we go into the future, I think this will be less of an issue. It'll be more of what type of response do you want? I think, are you in a happy mood? Can I learn about what your emotions are when I respond to you? Are you angry? Are you sad? Like, so I think that's probably where things will kind of evolve. Because right now it's a voice. It doesn't know your emotion. So that's the quotient that will probably kind of improve as you kind of move forward.
Thank you.
Hi, Aditya. This is Nambi here. I have one question regarding the privacy aspects which you were talking about. You said like Germany has stringent standards and US has standards. How do you compare Indian laws and standards compared to the Germany and US?
Yes, fairly strict in terms of what we can do and how we can do, especially in services. And I can give you an answer about, in terms of comparison, I would say they are on Germany number 1, India number 2, US number 3. I mean, US is a lot more, they're okay kind of allowing you to make mistakes. So it allows that. But I mean, Indian laws are far stricter in terms of what, it's heavily regulated in terms of what can be done.
Alexa's policy is like, will be country specific, or it will be like you have your own policy which will apply throughout the world?
No, I mean, it has to be country specific, just like any other process. I mean, and especially we are in 15 countries, and each locale has its own nuance. I can't speak a few things in a way where in certain countries, for example, I mean, Jewish outcast and all of that is like condemned in the world of EU. And in the US, I mean, you're talking Black Lives Matters and things like moments like that are pretty sensitive, right? And so you have a huge sensitive content wing that knows what is bad in like profanity filters in Spanish is a big deal. So each country has its own nuance, and we have a huge organization that looks at what is right for the org and the country, and that's part of my team's charter too, because I own like the linguistic and cultural relevance, but I need to make sure like Alexa is not speaking what it's not supposed to speak in Australia versus UK. So we have a rigorous exercise before any product gets shipped out, where we go through that exercise.
So this particular your country-specific policies, when it applies, is that like depends on from where the data originates, or like say for example, like if it is there on a mobility device in my mobile or whatever, if I'm traveling abroad, then how does it behave?
No, it is where your device is tied to. Let's say for example, if I try to, I am Adhitya living in US using an Amazon.com account. If I go to India, I am still a .com user, but I'm allowed to ship and buy in .India. So it's very similar model. So it treats your original entity as your location, and then as you go, you have the choice to see, I want to be in this location or that location. So it's tied to the user.
Okay, thank you. Thank you.
Great questions, by the way.
Kandasamy here. You said Alexa is bilingual. Does it understand Tamil and other South Indian languages?
Oh, we are not there yet. Maybe someday in the future. At this point, I think at best it can understand Hindi and English for the Indian population, but we haven't come to the next other languages yet.
How long will it take? How long will it take to come to that point?
This is where I have to give my politically correct answer. Well, the things are work in progress, and sometime in the future it will come. I mean, there is plans for languages for sure, but something that I can't disclose.
Thank you.
Excellent. Well, if there are any questions, all of you know where to reach me, how to get a hold of me, and I'm more than happy to answer. But
yeah, Aditya, we'd like to get in touch with your team regarding that school project. If anything we can do on this. Yeah.
Definitely. Let me sync up with my team in India on Monday, and then I'll push over the contacts either to you, uncle, or to my dad, so that you can get it over.
Yeah, great.
This is here. I'm so happy at the control and the way you are able to have a hold over your. Normally on Saturday meetings, your dad spends a lot of time with Mayappan. Probably after 6:30 or 7. Today, you see, look at his rapt attention, listening to your conversation right through. Even though I don't want Vidya to comment on it, but I'm sure you have a good hold on him today.
Mornings are never an issue for me. You see Appa smiling, so he's definitely listening to what you just said.
I don't think he's in this meeting. He's actually out of town, and he doesn't have access to internet.
No, Akka, he was visible.
For a few seconds, Ashish, for a few seconds, because he's been messaging me telling I'm unable to connect, there is no network.
Well, I've seen a glass in his hand.
Hi, Boona, I'm here.
Yeah.
Oh, you're good. Okay, good.
We are all here, Vijayanand.
Boona, you will not remember, as husbands, we only text relevant portions to our wives. Please remember that.
No, actually, I couldn't see him also on the screen, so I presume he's not logged in.
Very good. I'm hearing.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for having me. It was such a pleasure to come and share some of the world that I work in with all of you. I mean, as I said, I've always respected this group of people from my childhood days. So I'm very thankful for this opportunity to being able to come and show what I do.
Thank you, Aditya. Thank you so much. I think we'll name you as Vicky Alexa. Yeah. So I request Rotarian Krishna Kumar to please deliver vote of thanks, please.
Unmute yourself, Krishna Kumar.
Is there?
Krishna Kumar, I think you're on mute.
Yeah. Esteemed speaker, Aditya, and members of the Rotary Central family, I think all of you will agree with me that it's been an amazing session, which has been an eye-opener for many of us for the last 1 hour or so. And this would certainly rate as one of the best meetings of Rotary Coimbatore Central. Under Kenka's leadership, we have had a lot of interesting meetings, and this will certainly rate as one of them. What is important is we all knew that the world is becoming smarter. But what we have come to realize again today is that this smart world is being driven by our smart ants from Rotary Coimbatore Central, whether they are in Coimbatore or Singapore or whether they are in Seattle. And they are making a difference to the world to make it a much better place to live in. And we are all extremely proud of the speaker and his team for the wonderful work that is being done. It's also a message for us that we have to not only buy these smart devices, but be smart enough to know how to use them and use the right settings exactly so that we don't end up in a mess. So a lot of takeaways out of this meeting. Aditya, we know that you come from a very respected and innovative family. Your father thought that one of the best things to do was to go over to the US, try to get technology from there, manufacture products in Coimbatore and sell it for the world. But you have got one step further and said, no, I will go and tell the Americans what technology is. We will make them develop technology there in the US and sell it for the world. So this has been an amazing leap and we are all extremely proud of you. Looking forward to having more interactions with you in the days to come. Congratulations and all the best to you on behalf of Rotary Coimbatore Central. We hope to see you soon in the list of various awards and achievers, and Rotary Central will always be proud of your contribution and your eminent talk today. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Always seek your blessings. Thanks a lot. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much, Adit. Thank you. Thank you. Rotary Coimbatore Central meeting adjourned. Open for general talk.